You ever looked down at your GPS and thought, what is going on? What is this thing doing? Where is this taking me? Proceed to the route. I'm proceeding to the route, but I don't know which way you want me to go, and it doesn't make any sense. If I did this just the other day, and I'm not one that generally argues with the GPS. I just want it to tell me where to go. But sometimes you look at it and you just can't figure out what is it trying to tell me. And then thankfully there's a little button. There's a little button that I hit sometimes and it says recenter. And I hit the recenter button and the whole thing flips upside down and all of a sudden I recognize where I am. And that's a very helpful thing. I tell you that because sometimes I wonder, what is God doing? Do you ever think that? God, what are you doing? I look around at the world and I look at my own life and this doesn't look right. This doesn't look right. And so I have to take just a minute to figure out what is it you want? What is it you're trying to do? What is the goal? What is your goal? What is the mission of God? What I want us to do for just a moment this morning is I want us to take just a second and let's hit that recenter button. Let's just recalibrate together ourselves around the mission of God because nothing will make sense until we do. There's a little verse tucked away in a book that you probably don't read a lot. It's in the book of Habakkuk. Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 14 tells us this: "For the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the Lord's glory as the waters cover the sea." Complete coverage. That is the mission of God. That the earth would be filled with the glory of God. That's what God is doing. That is the mission of God. God's mission is to cover the world with the glory of God. He desires and deserves the worship of every living thing on the planet. And his mission is to bring them all back to himself. And that story is currently unfolding. And so we have to ask the question, will that mission be accomplished? Revelation chapter 5 tells us this: "Then I looked and I heard around the throne and the living creatures and the elders and the voice of many angels, numbering myriads and myriads and thousands, saying with a loud voice, 'Worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power and wealth and wisdom and might and honor and glory and blessing.' And I heard every creature," this is you, by the way. Did you know you're in the Bible? "I heard every creature in heaven and on earth and under the earth and in the sea and all that is in them," that's everybody. "And we all will say, 'To him who sits on the throne and to the Lamb be blessing and honor and glory and might forever and ever.'" Will that mission be accomplished? Yes, that mission will be accomplished. God's mission is that you and I would be so saturated with him that every person in every place would have a daily encounter with someone who has been changed by Jesus. And that encounter with you would in turn begin to transform them. So can you imagine all over our community, in every neighborhood, in every social gathering, every school, every office, every shop, every warehouse, there were people living in a way that declares the glory of God in the words that we speak and in the things that we do. That is what God is doing. That is what he wants. And he wants you in on it. And the crazy thing is that if you have come to the place where you have said to God, I don't want what I want what you want, you're already in on it. You, ordinary, average you. You are in on the mission of God. You have been entrusted by God with his mission to cover our community with the truth of who he is through the everyday stuff that you do. Where is the mission of God? It's wherever you are, because the mission of God is everywhere. God has always used ordinary people to demonstrate how great he is. He's not looking for the most impressive people because he already is that person. The question is, will we commit ourselves to the mission of God? Will you commit yourself to the mission of God? Because you're a perfect candidate. You're some of the most ordinary people I know. So what I want to do is ask this question for today. We're going to get to our Hebrews 11 text. But as we approach it, I want us to approach it in this way. Ask the question, how is it that God moves this mission along? How is it that he keeps moving it along? We see it begin in Genesis chapter 1, and it unfolds all the way to Revelation chapter 5. And how is it that he continues to push it along through everyday, ordinary people? He does it through ordinary people who keep delivering the promises of God to the next generation. That's the way the mission of God continues to unfold. So if you look at the storyline of the Bible, we see in Genesis chapter 1, Adam and Eve. And then Genesis chapter 3, we see the fall. And then the rest of the book of Genesis is just an unraveling of the damage that has been caused by sin. And then we come to Genesis chapter 12, and you've got a guy named Abraham, an ordinary guy. We've talked about him before. He wasn't anything special. We think Abraham, and so we think Abraham. But he was a regular guy. His family worshiped idols. He was from a city called Ur. God comes to him and he says, I'm going to bless you, not just to bless you. I'm going to bless you so that through you and your family line, all the world will be blessed. And I'm going to do it by giving you descendants that outnumber the stars. I'm going to cover the earth with my glory. So Abraham is old, and he wants to pass the blessing on to his son, and he does to his son Isaac. And now Isaac is old, and he wants to pass the blessing of God for the glory of God on to his son as well. And so in Genesis chapter 25, we pick up our program already in progress. Genesis 25, verse 21. So Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was childless, and the Lord was receptive to his prayer. And Rebekah conceived, but the children inside her struggled with each other, and she said, I would imagine the same thing every woman says every time. Why is this happening to me? And so she went to inquire of the Lord, and the Lord said to her, there are two nations in your womb, two people who will come from you and be separated. One people will be the stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. So when her time came to give birth, there were indeed twins in her womb. The first came out red looking, covered with hair like a fur coat, and they named him Esau. And after this, his brother came out, grasping Esau's heel with his hand, so he was named Jacob. So Rebekah was told by God, you're going to have twins. There are two nations that are going to be formed from the lives of these twins. The older one, Esau, is going to serve the younger one, Jacob. In other words, that promise of God is going to flow through the family line of Jacob, not Esau. This is what God has told Rebekah. Now, the sibling rivalry starts very early. It starts in the womb. Jacob grabbing his brother's heel as if he's trying to keep him from being first. And so his name actually means, and if you're Jacob in the room, my apologies, it means heel grabber, and it means deceiver. You should always research names before you just throw them around lightly. So you got radically different brothers. You got Esau, and it says he's really hairy, which I don't know if you know, is not a cute look for a baby. But he's a hunter. He's skilled with his hands. He chewed tobacco. He drove a truck. He knew how to fix stuff. This is Esau. And then you have Jacob. He calls him smooth. He enjoys cooking. He's cried at chick flicks. And he had a Pinterest account. So they're radically different guys. And as they grow, the rivalry continues to intensify, even with the parents. Rebekah loves Jacob. But Esau was loved by his father Isaac. So we pick up in Genesis chapter 27, verse 1. So when Isaac was old, and his eyes were so weak that he could not see, he called his older son Esau, and he said to him, "My son." He answered, "Here I am." He said, "Look, and I am old. I do not know the day of my death. So now take your hunting gear, your quiver and your bow, and go out into the field and hunt some game for me, and then make a delicious meal that I love." In other words, you know that favorite food I like. I want you to make that for me and bring it to me to eat so that I can bless you before I die. Dad calls Esau in, and he wants to give him the blessing. He's going to pass that through Esau. Now, what blessing? It's not just an inheritance. It's not just, you're the firstborn, I'm giving you the inheritance. This is the blessing from God that through your family line, all the world would be blessed. So Esau goes out to hunt. Verse 5. Now Rebekah was listening to what Isaac said to Esau. So while Esau went out to the field to hunt some game, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "Listen, I heard your father talking to your brother Esau, and he told him to bring me game and make a delicious meal for me to eat so that I can bless you in the Lord's presence before I die. Now, my son, listen. I want to tell you what to do. Go to the flock, bring me 2 choice young goats, and I will make them into a delicious meal for your father, the kind that he loves. Then take it to your father to eat so that he may bless you before he dies." Jacob answered Rebekah, his mother, "Look, my brother Esau is a hairy man, and I'm a man with smooth skin. Suppose my father touches me, then I will be revealed to him as a deceiver and bring a curse rather than a blessing on myself." But his mother said to him, "Your curse be on me, my son. Just obey me and go get them for me." So he went and he got the goats and he brought them to his mother, and he made the delicious food his father loved. And then Rebekah took the best clothes of her son Esau, which were in the house, and had her younger son Jacob wear them. She put the skins of the young goats on his hands and the smooth part of his neck. And then she handed the delicious food and the bread she had made to her son Jacob. And when his father came, Oh, and when he came to his father, he said, "My father, here I am. Who are you, my son?" Jacob replied to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of my game so that you may bless me." But Isaac said to his son, "How did you ever find it so quickly, my son?" He replied, "Because the Lord your God made it happen for me." Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Please come closer so that I can touch you, my son. Are you really my son Esau or not?" So Jacob came closer to his father Isaac. And when he touched him, he said, "The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau." He did not recognize him because his hands were hairy like those of his brother Esau. So he blessed him. And again he said, "Are you really my son Esau?" He said, "I am." He said, "Bring it closer to me and let me eat some of my son's game so that I can bless you." Jacob brought it closer to him and he ate. He brought him wine and he drank. And then his father, Isaac, said to him, "Please come closer and kiss me, my son." So he came closer and he kissed him. And when Isaac smelled his clothes, he blessed him and he said, "The smell of my son is like the smell of the field that the Lord has blessed. May God give to you from the dew of the sky and from the richness of the land an abundance of grain and new wine. May people serve you, nations bow in worship to you. Be master over your relatives. May your mother's sons bow in worship to you. Those who curse you will be cursed. Those who bless you will be blessed." So mom calls Jacob, says, "Put on your brother's shirt, slap on some goat hair, and go into your blind father's room to receive a blessing that is not yours." Verse 30, we pick it back up, and he says, "As soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, and Jacob had left the presence of his father Isaac, his brother Esau arrived from hunting. He had also made some delicious food and brought it into his father, and he said to his father, 'Let my father get up and eat some of his son's game so that you may bless me.' But his father Isaac said, 'Who are you?' He said, 'I am Esau, your firstborn son.' And Isaac began to tremble uncontrollably. 'Who was it then who hunted game and brought it into me? I ate it all before you came in, and I blessed him. And indeed, he will be blessed.'" Now, I want to take you, stay with me. I want to take you to our text in Hebrews. It's a very short, just one verse. Hebrews 11 and verse 20. Here's what it says. "By faith, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau concerning things to come." So here's my question. What was it about Isaac's faith in the middle of all that story? What was it about his faith that lands Isaac in the hall of faith in Hebrews chapter 11? What is it that we just saw that would somehow place him in the Hebrews 11 chapter as someone that we should look to and model our faith after? In the last few minutes that we have, I just want to make 3 quick observations about what we just read, okay? Is that a good strategy? You with me? All right, here we go. One observation. Faith trusts God's promises over personal preference. Isaac wanted Esau. Genesis tells us that Isaac loved Esau, but it also tells us that God chose Jacob. God tells Rebekah, Esau is going to serve Jacob. So when it came down to it, did you notice what Isaac says when he realized that he had been deceived and that he had blessed the wrong son? He says, "Indeed, he will be blessed." That's one of the most remarkable sentences in all of Genesis. Because he didn't say, get your smooth-skinned, weak brother back in here. You know what I mean? He didn't say that. I mean, why didn't he just reverse it? Jacob, you tricked me. No blessing for you. Why didn't he just do that? It's because his faith would not allow him to do it. What I mean is, Isaac finally realizes, I've been deceived. I've blessed the wrong son. I could demand that Jacob come back. I could reverse everything. But instead, he says, indeed, he will be blessed. Why? It's because Isaac finally recognizes this is not my blessing to control. God's promise to bless the whole earth was bigger than Isaac's preference. God had already determined Jacob would be the line. Here's the thing I'm thinking. Faith trusts God's purpose even when my plans collapse. Have you ever been there? I know. So we all have moments where we find ourselves saying, this is not how I planned it. This is not the way I expected things to go. This is not how my job's supposed to unfold. It's not how my kids are supposed to be. Faith says God's purpose is still intact, regardless of my plans. A second observation is this. Faith blesses a future it cannot see. Faith blesses a future it will never see. It says, by faith, Hebrews 11:20, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau concerning things to come. Isaac is dying, but you know what he's doing? He's thinking beyond himself. He's thinking beyond himself. He's investing in a future that he will never see. That's exactly why the Hebrews writer emphasizes concerning things to come. He didn't just say Isaac blessed Jacob. No, he says he blessed them concerning things to come. I find myself, just this week we had tons of kids in this room. You would not have recognized the place. It was completely different. It was incredibly loud, and the kids were loving it. They were having a great time. And I was able to watch all of this take place, and then I would sit and watch some of the kids where they're doing crafts and different things. And you know the amazing thing? You can look at a little kid, and you can look at their face, and you can see. I don't get to see the kids that much because they're over there in another building right now. I just see the adult versions of them in here. But when you see the little version of you, all of a sudden I go, I know, I understand now. I know why you're like that. But you can also look at a child and you can just see what they're going to be. You can just imagine the adult they're going to be. You can just see the personality already. You can just imagine what they will be as an adult. And you know that time keeps going faster and faster. And so when we see these kids come in, I'm expecting them to be right here, and now they're looking me in the eye. It's only a moment. It's only a moment. And they will be in our place. This is brief. Sometimes we think this is a forever situation. It's not. It's very transient. The mission of God is continuing to flow through ordinary people as we hand the promises of God to the next generation. And so it's really important that we not spend all of our energies trying to preserve ourselves. How can I keep myself in this lane that I'm in? How can I make sure that everything I have is everything I need? It's a waste of time. What our job is to make sure that we're investing in things to come, to make sure that we're handing things, what am I going to leave behind, not what can I preserve for myself. We're always investing in a future we may not personally experience. That's the kind of faith that Hebrews 11 is wanting us to have, a future-focused faith, understanding that the mission of God is continuing to unfold through the next generation. This would be a great time to do a capital drive right now. We need a bigger building for the next generation. I was just thinking that would be a great time. Not going to do it. Not going to do it. It lacks integrity. Not going to do it. I'm excited about the next generation, though. I'm excited about it. I loved last week being able to see. You need to do that. You need to volunteer a little bit in our kids' area just so you can see the blessing of God that's already beginning to build in some of these other buildings. It's amazing to watch, and I'm looking forward to see or not see what God is going to do through them in the next generation. The last observation, we'll wrap up with this. Faith believes God's mission cannot be stopped by human failure. I don't know if you noticed, but in Genesis 27, nobody behaved well. Nobody behaved well. Rebekah, Isaac, Jacob, even Esau. You're like, what did Esau do? Well, if you read a little back, you'll see what he did. He made light of the blessing and traded it for some lunch. Nobody behaved well in Genesis 27, and yet the mission of God kept unfolding. The mission of God, here's the thing, it's not dependent on your perfection. It's never been dependent on your perfection. Your salvation is not dependent on your perfection. So let's remember where we started. You remember the question that we asked at the beginning? What is God doing? God, what are you doing? And we hit that reset button and we remember he is filling the earth with his glory. He's filling the earth with his glory. And he's doing it through ordinary people like Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and you and me. And Genesis 27 is not ultimately about a dysfunctional family or bad parenting or sibling rivalry. That's all just the setting for the story. The real question is this: will the mission of God to cover the earth with the glory of God continue to move forward despite human failure? And Hebrews answers that with a resounding yes. Isaac's faith is that in the end, he acknowledges the promises of God will stand. And that's exactly the kind of faith that the book of Hebrews is trying to build in you. So God, help us to see clearly who you are and what you're doing. Help us to be focused on your mission to cover the earth with the knowledge of your glory. Would you help us to see the things that matter? Keep us from being so focused on our own priorities that we're able to see you and the mission passed down to the next generation. Even now, would you protect them? Would you draw them close to you? Would you prepare them? And we look forward to the day when we will stand with every other living being and we will declare your glory forever and ever. Until that day, help us to keep running. Help us to lay aside everything that slows us down. And would you make your name famous here in our little place we live? And this morning, as we take the bread and the cup, would you allow it to serve as a recentering, and a reminder that our failures do not negate your grace, and that you have already proved yourself in Jesus as perfect on our behalf. And so we celebrate it and we give you thanks. In Jesus' name, amen.